Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Joshua King. I'm 45 years old, and I've been a commercial hazmat driver longer than most dispatchers have had a license. I've hauled chemicals through snowstorms in Montana and across desert highways in Arizona, but nothing prepared me for the storm that started inside Trailfront Logistics. For 22 years, my record was spotless. No accidents. No violations. Nothing but steel nerves and DOT-compliant paperwork. That changed when Colin Decker arrived. Colin was the kind of guy who shook your hand with a smile that never reached his eyes. Fresh from corporate, probably with a management degree he never used until someone's uncle gave him a desk job. He'd been with us just 4 months and already spoke like he'd been running fleets since birth. But that Monday morning was the beginning of it all. "Mark them all cleared," he said, dropping a clipboard in front of me. 3 trucks, tankers loaded with Class 8 corrosives, sat idling in the yard. Each one overdue for maintenance. One had hydraulic seals leaking, another's air compressor was hissing like a punctured lung, and the third, God help us, the brake pads were gone. I looked up from the clipboard. "These trucks are in violation. You know that, right?" Colin shrugged like I'd asked him what time lunch was. "DOT won't check us if we keep to our schedule. The faster we move, the less we get noticed." That line stayed with me. The faster we move, the less we get noticed. That wasn't management. That was malpractice. "I'm not signing these," I said. Colin chuckled, leaned in close, and whispered, "Then maybe you're not the right kind of driver for Trailfront anymore." The tension in the air turned to concrete. "You have to understand, this isn't about pride. This was about lives. You sign one false inspection, and if that truck crashes, it's your name that gets dragged through the investigation. Your license. Your record. Your conscience. And mine was clean. I wasn't about to stain it for someone like Colin Decker. When I walked out of that office, I thought I was choosing principle over paycheck. I didn't realize I was walking into war. I wish I could say that walking out of Trailfront's yard that day felt noble. Like I was the hero in some safety-first action movie. But truthfully, it felt like stepping off a cliff with my eyes closed. My phone didn't ring the next morning. Or the next. No calls from recruiters, no offers from nearby haulers. Word travels fast in logistics, and Colin must have made sure everyone knew I'd refused to cooperate. That's code in this industry for troublemaker. Angela, my wife, was quiet at dinner that third night. She didn't push, but I could tell the silence was eating her alive. "What are you going to do?" she finally asked, folding a napkin the way she always did when she was nervous. "I don't know," I admitted. My hands, calloused from 2 decades of shifting gears, felt useless now. And just like that, the cracks started. The mortgage payment was due in 2 weeks. Our youngest daughter, Mia, needed braces. The savings I'd built with long hauls and overtime was bleeding faster than I could stop it. Colin didn't just fire me. He sabotaged me. One afternoon, I drove by the Trailfront yard out of habit. My old rig, truck 582, was still there. Parked beside it was Danny Flores's old truck, the one he refused to drive because of faulty steering. That truck was still marked as operational. Still had Danny's name on the inspection log, even though he'd left a month before me. They were using his name to cover active violations. That's when I realized, this wasn't just mismanagement. It was fraud. They were forging inspection reports. I'd heard of this happening before, companies cutting corners, making older drivers disappear, and coercing rookies into dangerous runs. But to see it so close, so personal. It twisted my gut. I started having nightmares, acid spills, trucks jackknifing on icy roads, families hurt by trailers that should have never left the yard. I'd wake up sweating, Angela holding my hand, whispering that it wasn't my fault. But deep down, I feared it would be. Because if I stayed quiet and someone died, that would be on me. One morning, while sipping black coffee and scrolling job boards for the 100th time, I found a photo in my phone, an old inspection log I'd snapped weeks earlier as a backup. The date, the forged signature, the passed box checked next to brake system, replaced, even though it hadn't been. I started digging. Over the next few days, I combed through every file, photo, and note I'd ever taken during my time at Trailfront. There were more than I realized: photos of leaking seals, brake fluid pooling in the yard, rusted tanks signed off as road ready. I wasn't powerless. Not completely. But I needed help. That's when I remembered Frank Morrison, my old supervisor before Colin arrived. Retired now, working part-time at an auto shop on the south side. I called him. "Joshua," he said, like he hadn't heard from me in a decade. "You alright, son?" "I need to talk," I replied. When I got to the shop, Frank led me to a quiet corner of the garage and listened while I spilled everything. "You're not crazy," he said after I finished. "Colin's not just reckless. He's setting drivers up to take the fall." I showed him the forged logs. Frank went pale. "I've seen this before," he said. "Back in '09, another company got caught doing the same thing. The feds shut them down. But it took a whistleblower with guts." The word whistleblower sent a chill through me. Because I knew what that meant. No more staying in the shadows. No more hoping someone else would fix it. It had to be me. Frank handed me a card. "Call this woman. Patricia Henley. DOT Inspector General's office. She's tough, but she plays it straight." I stared at the card for a long time that night. Angela sat beside me on the porch. "You already know what you're going to do," she whispered. "You're just scared to say it." I looked at her. The woman who'd stood by me through storms and near misses and Christmas runs. "If I do this," I said, "there's no going back." She nodded. "Then don't go back. Go forward." I called the number Frank gave me the next morning. "Inspector General's office. This is Patricia Henley speaking." Her voice was calm but sharp, like a blade that didn't need to flash to cut. "My name's Joshua King," I said. "I used to work for Trailfront Logistics. I need to report a pattern of falsified DOT inspections and hazmat safety violations." There was a pause. "Mr. King," she said. "I need you to come in. Today if possible." 2 hours later, I was in Helena, sitting across from Patricia in a federal office so bare it felt like an interrogation room. But it wasn't fear I felt, it was relief. For the first time in weeks, I was telling the truth to someone who wanted to hear it. I laid it all out: Colin Decker, the falsified inspection logs, the pressure to sign off on unsafe trucks, the retaliatory firings. I showed her the photos, the saved messages, the maintenance logs that didn't match the service records. She flipped through each page with surgeon-like precision. "This is strong," she said. "But I'll need more. Would you be willing to wear a wire?" That stopped me cold. "You want me to go back?" I asked. "I want you to apply for your old job," she said. "Decker's already denied everything. He claims you were let go for performance issues. If we can get him to confirm his involvement, or better yet, get him to say it's all part of his process, we have him." I thought of the younger drivers. The ones who didn't know better. The ones being set up to drive rolling bombs across state lines with fake signatures and failing brakes. I nodded slowly. "I'll do it." "Good," she said, sliding a small button-sized mic across the table. "Let's make this count." That night, Angela wasn't thrilled. "You said you'd expose him, not walk back into the fire," she said, folding her arms. "I won't be there long," I promised. "Just enough to get what we need." She didn't argue. She just looked at me like she was memorizing every part of my face, just in case. The next day, I called Trailfront. Colin answered like nothing had happened. Joshua. I was wondering if you'd come to your senses. I've had some time to think, I said. I'm willing to be a team player, under a few conditions. He laughed like we were old friends catching up after a minor spat. Come in tomorrow. Let's talk. When I walked back into that office, it felt like stepping into a burning building and pretending the air didn't stink of smoke. But Colin grinned and handed me a clipboard like he was handing me a second chance. Same routes. Same trucks. Just keep the forms neat, and I'll handle the paperwork. He winked. I pressed record on the device in my pocket. I don't need to double-check these logs. I asked casually. Already done, he said, sipping coffee. These trucks passed inspection last week. I signed off myself. You just drive. You're certified. Absolutely, he lied. DOT doesn't care who signs as long as the job gets done. That was the first nail in his coffin. Over the next week, I documented every shady conversation, every lie, every moment he instructed me, or other drivers, to ignore protocol. But then, something unexpected happened. I overheard a call in his office while I was passing by with a fuel receipt. No, we can't delay. I told you, we already beat Mountain View's bid by 30%. I don't care if the trailer hasn't cleared inspection. If it's not on the road by tomorrow, we lose the contract. Mountain View. They were the last competitor for regional hazmat contracts in our area. The next day, I looked them up. They were out of business. Closed down after a mysterious spill that cost them millions in damages. The incident involved a tank rupture on a route Trailfront had recently taken over. Coincidence? Maybe. But it felt rotten. When I brought this to Patricia, her jaw tightened. We've had similar reports in 2 other states. If this is part of a larger scheme to underbid legitimate operators by falsifying safety records, it's not just fraud, it's criminal conspiracy. That's when I realized, this wasn't just about saving my job. This was about stopping a man who was putting lives at risk to beat contracts. And I had more to do. You don't plan revenge with fire in your heart. You plan it with ice in your veins. Patricia Henley and I met at a diner just outside Helena. Neutral ground. No federal badge on display, just 2 people sharing a booth like old friends over stale coffee. This goes deeper than we thought, she said. We've linked Trailfront's bids to 3 shutdowns in the last year. Each one involved sudden contract wins, record delivery times, and trucks signed off with no matching maintenance logs. Colin wasn't just falsifying documents, he was building a business model out of it. A high-speed, low-safety, high-profit machine. And people were losing livelihoods because of it. Some may have lost more. We're going to hit them hard, Patricia said. But we only get one shot. So we built the plan together. Small Blue Diamond I'd stay embedded, collect more direct quotes from Colin, especially where he tied fake inspections to winning bids. Small Blue Diamond Patricia's team would subpoena internal communication logs. Small Blue Diamond and Frank, my old supervisor, agreed to testify about Colin's changes after his retirement. Small Blue Diamond, but most importantly, we needed proof of intent. Colin had to admit he knew what he was doing was illegal. So I waited. And I baited. Hey, Colin, I asked one afternoon, clipboard in hand. You sure truck number 614's brakes are good? It's still making that grinding sound. He didn't even look up. Wesley already drove it twice last week. It's fine. We're not running a church choir, we're running a business. Click. Another line recorded. Another moment closer to justice. Then came the golden ticket. Late Friday, Colin was pacing in his office on a heated call with someone from corporate. He didn't realize I was around the corner replacing toner in the copy machine. You want me to slow down delivery times just to stay compliant? Then go hire drivers who don't mind being poor. I've got veterans signing logs without even looking at the trucks. It's called efficiency. He slammed the phone down. That was it. That was the quote we needed. Patricia called it the confession. That clip alone would turn a civil investigation into a criminal indictment. We agreed the takedown would happen on a Thursday. DOT agents, undercover inspectors, and a federal marshal team would descend on trailfront mid-morning. No warning. No heads up. Everything locked down before Colin could shred, delete, or lie. But I still had one job left. Get Colin to hand me one more clipboard. One more forged log. So he couldn't claim ignorance. That next morning, he handed me the paperwork for a tanker headed to Montana. The truck hadn't seen a wrench in weeks. I knew it. So did he. Sign it, Josh, he said, voice smooth as always. No one's watching. But I was watching. And so was the mic in my lapel. It happened on a cold Thursday morning that started like any other, until it didn't. I pulled into the trailfront yard at 6:45 a.m. sharp. The sun hadn't cracked the horizon, but the tension in my chest was already burning. My clipboard was empty, but my jacket pocket was full, of evidence, of audio, of justice. By 9:12 a.m., Patricia Henley rolled through the gates in an unmarked black SUV, flanked by 2 Department of Transportation agents, a federal compliance inspector, and one very large man who turned out to be a U.S. Marshal. Colin was in his office, sipping his usual lukewarm coffee and yelling at someone over an invoice when Patricia knocked. "Colin Decker," she asked, flashing her badge. "Inspector Patricia Henley, Office of the Inspector General, Department of Transportation. We're executing a federal compliance audit under Title 49 CFR." The moment the words, "federal compliance audit," left her mouth, the blood drained from Colin's face. I wasn't notified of any," he stammered. "This is an unscheduled inspection based on multiple whistleblower complaints, allegations of falsified documentation, and criminal fraud involving hazardous materials." The entire office froze. Colin looked at me, just for a split second, and I saw it. That flicker of recognition. That "oh God, it was you" look. But he didn't say a word. The agents spread out with stunning precision. Small Blue Diamond one team headed for the maintenance bay. Small Blue Diamond another for the dispatch office computers. Small Blue Diamond and Patricia stayed glued to Colin, asking polite, but piercing, questions. Within 45 minutes, chaos bloomed. 3 tankers were tagged out of service for immediate safety violations. 2 laptops were seized. And when one agent opened a locked drawer in Colin's office, he found a stash of unsigned pre-trip inspection logs, already filled out, already marked passed, just waiting for a name to be scribbled in. Colin tried to explain. He really did. "I pre-fill the forms to save time, it's not illegal unless they're used," he shouted. But then Patricia pulled out a transcript, my transcript. His voice saying, "Drivers don't need to check the trucks. Just sign the forms. DOT never looks unless something explodes." Colin went pale. Then red. Then pale again. "This is entrapment," he barked. "It's evidence," Patricia replied calmly. "Mr. Decker, you are under arrest for falsifying federal transportation records, willful endangerment under hazmat transport regulations, and conspiracy to commit fraud." The cuffs clicked behind his back like the final punctuation on a sentence too long in the making. The yard was silent. Even the rumbling truck seemed to pause as Colin was escorted through the gate, hands bound, eyes darting in every direction, except mine. I just stood there, clipboard in hand. One of the young drivers, Marcus, approached me after the agents cleared the lot. "You knew?" he asked. I nodded. "For a while." He swallowed hard. "You saved us, man. We could have died out there." "No," I said. You were just doing your job. I just made sure we'd all still have one tomorrow. I thought it was over when they hauled Colin out in cuffs. But I should have known better. Patricia called me the next morning. Her voice was calm, but there was something cold beneath it. Something unsettled. Joshua, she said, we need to talk. Today. I met her back in Helena, this time in a different conference room. No coffee. No pleasantries. Just a thick folder on the table and a laptop playing a grainy video from a corporate Zoom call. And there he was. Thomas Randall, Trailfront's regional vice president. A name I'd only heard in whispers. In the video, he spoke with the kind of arrogance that dripped from every polished syllable. I don't care what shape the tankers are in. As long as the reports are clean, the trucks move. Decker knows how to handle drivers who get squeamish. Patricia paused the video. Recognize that voice? She asked. I nodded slowly. I'd never met the man, but that voice was unforgettable. He had the kind of tone that made you feel small just by listening. He was CC'd on almost every forged compliance report Colin submitted, Patricia said. We pulled archived emails. He greenlit every cut corner. Every falsified delivery metric. He wasn't just aware, he authorized it. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. So Colin wasn't the top. No, Patricia said, eyes locked on mine. He was the cleanup guy. Randall was the architect. My blood boiled. All this time, I thought I'd taken down the devil. Turns out, I just unseated one of his pawns. Patricia continued. Randall's been using Trailfront's safety shortcuts to secure impossible regional contracts. Faster deliveries. Cheaper insurance premiums. He was falsifying numbers to inflate quarterly profits. We suspect stock fraud may be involved, too. That's when it hit me, the shutdowns of competing companies, the sudden dominance in hazmat contracts, the forged logs, all of it fed into one thing. Profit over life. Trailfront wasn't just crooked. It was corrupt from the top down. So what do we do? I asked. Patricia leaned forward. We indict higher. She laid out the plan like a general preparing for war. Small Blue Diamond Randall would be subpoenaed under fraud and conspiracy charges. Small Blue Diamond, a federal forensic team, would analyze every delivery and inspection record tied to his division. Small Blue Diamond and my evidence, the audio, the logs, the conversations, would now become part of a larger criminal case. You're not just a whistleblower anymore, Patricia said. You're the key witness. My heart pounded. Not from fear. From clarity. I had a chance to bury the entire operation. But it would come at a cost. They'll come after me, I said. My name will be in the filings. Patricia nodded. We can offer protection. Change of employment, relocation if needed. But your courage, it's what makes this work. Angela was quiet when I told her that night. She sat by the window, staring at our backyard like it was the edge of the world. Then she turned and whispered, do it. Finish what you started. The federal courtroom smelled like polished wood and dusted secrets. I sat there in a suit I hadn't worn since my father's funeral, staring at the man I once thought was untouchable, Thomas Randall, former regional vice president of Trailfront Logistics. He wore a $1,000 tie and a look of pure contempt. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Not once. Beside me, Patricia Henley nodded encouragingly as the judge swore me in. State your name. Joshua King. Your occupation. Hazardous materials transport operator. Formerly employed by Trailfront Logistics. Then came the questions. Slow. Methodical. Razor sharp. I testified about everything. Small Blue Diamond, the forged inspection logs. Small Blue Diamond, the threats from Colin. Small Blue Diamond, the unsafe trucks I refused to sign for. Small Blue Diamond and how I recorded months of conversations as Trailfront cut corners to beat bids and inflate profits. Then came the recordings. The courtroom went still as Colin's voice echoed. Just sign the papers. Nobody checks unless someone explodes. And then Randall's voice from the Zoom call. As long as the reports are clean, the trucks move. There it was. Plain. Undeniable. Fraud. Deception. Endangerment. Greed. Colin had already taken a plea deal, 2 years in federal prison and full cooperation. That included testifying against Randall, and he did so with all the loyalty of a sinking ship ratting out its captain. But what truly sealed it wasn't me. It was Mia. My daughter. She walked into that courtroom during a break and took the empty seat beside Angela. She was only 12, but she looked older that day. Stronger. Like she knew this wasn't just about me keeping a job, it was about the kind of world she'd grow up in. When I stepped off the witness stand, Randall finally looked at me. And for the first time, he looked small. Like a man whose empire had collapsed into dust and lies. The judge's ruling came swift and hard. Thomas Randall, you are found guilty on 6 counts of federal fraud, conspiracy, and reckless endangerment. You are hereby sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, banned from holding any transportation-related corporate role for life, and personally liable for restitution in the amount of $4.2 million. The courtroom erupted in whispers. But I just stared straight ahead, numb and steady. It was done. 3 months later, Trailfront shut down permanently. Federal regulators seized assets. The DOT revoked their hazmat transport license. Competing companies filed lawsuits. Drivers found new homes, many with better equipment, better safety, and actual integrity. As for me, I got a call from Redstone Freight, a respected family-owned carrier based out of Billings. Not only did they offer me a job, but they asked me to lead safety training for all new hazmat drivers. Someone who risked it all to protect people, the owner said, should be the one teaching them how to do it right. I took the job. Angela and I moved into a smaller house closer to the mountains, with a porch just big enough for 2 chairs and a quiet coffee at dawn. Sometimes I think back to Colin's office. The clipboard. The pressure. The weight of silence. I could have caved. But I didn't. And because I didn't, a lie came crashing down. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.